Well, good evening, everyone. I really felt I had to do this video. I mean, I've had a very busy day, but I felt I had to do this video just as a matter of respect to Bebe, Elsie Dot, and Alice. Those three beautiful little children. And I suppose we all, when we look at these sort of horrendous acts of evil, and we look at our own family, our own children and grandchildren. Elsie Dot, I believe, was about the same age as my granddaughter when this happened, and looked quite similar. Looked quite similar to my little granddaughter. And you always personalize it. You always look and think, well, what the main thing you think is never let it happen. And I know it's very selfish, but never let it happen to me. And I think when talking about something like this, I'm doing a live because I think it's the best way to do it. You can pre-record stuff like this and you do it over and over again. And I want to get some interaction with you guys and really see how everybody in the chat is feeling a year on from this horrendous massacre of the innocents. And so in doing this, I'm going to try and be as respectful as possible. I'm going to try and not score political points, even though there are many to be scored, but not at this time. It's got to be a mark of respect for the families who have, as far as I can see, have been extremely dignified. I don't know much about what their thoughts are or what their beliefs are, but they've been extremely dignified. And I think, a lot of times when you hear of things like this happening, you think, well, if that happened, I would want to go and get revenge. And the reality is, when something happens in your life that completely tears the fabric of your universe apart, you don't want you don't want revenge. You might get those thoughts for a little while, but then you just crawl into a corner and curl up in a ball. Really, I think is just the truth of what happens to a lot of people, and that's understandable. That is completely understandable. We saw it here in Northern Ireland. Think of Gordon Wilson, and my goodness, Gordon Wilson was a man who had his life completely ripped apart by the Enniskillen bomb, but he used the evil that had been done to him as a way to build love and peace and reconciliation in Northern Ireland. I don't think you can do that with monsters like, I'm not even going to mention his name. You know who I'm talking about. I'm just going to have a quick look at the comments here, guys, because there's some stuff I've looked at here, and it really puts a whole other spin on what we've been told about the attacks. And I'm gonna look at it live with you guys now. And I've pulled it off Google Gemini, the AI bot, and I think it's very interesting. We need to have a look at it, because remember, what we've got to remember about AI, it's completely woke, or it seems to be anyway. But we'll see what I've pulled up, and you can all let me know what you think. Graham, absolutely. I mean, anybody who looks at those pictures and isn't emotionally affected by them, I think there's something very wrong. Yep. I mean, there were, this is the tragedy. This is the tragedy of terrorism, and it was a terrorist attack, and we're going to look at that in a bit more detail. It was a terrorist attack, and this is the tragedy of terrorism. This is why I keep saying to people, all these idiots that come on channels and it's almost like they want a civil war, and they talk about it in such a matter of fact terms. They haven't gone through what this family's gone through. They haven't gone through what the Druze and the Christians and the Alawites are going through in Syria right now. A pogrom, a massacre. They haven't gone through what the Israeli people went through on October the 7th. None of us have gone through that extent of tragedy. There was in Sueda in Syria, there was a complete Christian family, American pastor and his young, all generations. I think there was about 18 people in the family, completely wiped out by jihadists that our government and the European Union and the American government are giving tacit support to. In fact, more than tacit support when the Israelis intervene. Anyway, that's well, that's another story. We're not going to go down that road. But what I'm saying is, we have to do everything we can to make sure that our country does not end up having these sort of horrendous events, horrendous acts of evil and massacres on a regular basis, because that's what could happen in this country. And I want to look at in a little bit of detail at what it appears this monster's ambition was, and what was motivating him. More importantly, what was motivating. And the other thing is, we do have to look at the politics, because we have been lied to, we have been gaslit, and Nick Lowles from Hope Not Hate spread some false information. He's never been charged, he's never been arrested. He said there'd been an acid attack on a Muslim woman. Well, I'm not sure whether he said it personally. His organization certainly spread that, and it spread like wildfire, and Muslim mobs went out onto the streets and started beating white people as a result of that. I think it was a tweet that was sent, and I think it was by Lowles. I could be wrong, but and if I'm wrong, I will stand corrected. But I'm almost certain it was Nick Lowles did it. And let me know in the comments if you know anything about that. If you've got any evidence of what he said exactly, I would like to see the evidence of exactly what he did say, because there's that much has happened in the last year. Exactly. How can we forget today? And this is the thing as well. The parents. Think about the parents. Think about families ripped apart that can never be put back together again. And for nothing. For a warped, disgusting ideology. Now, I'm gonna look at this. What I pulled up on what was contained in the Al-Qaeda manual. Okay, this is what was contained in the Al-Qaeda manual. Now, this is going on what the AI is telling me, and this is what the AI says. It says, while the killer possessed a vast and disturbing collection of violent extremist material, it was primarily linked to ISIS, in brackets, the Islamic State. And then it talks about incel, involuntary celibate ideology, which just to me just blows my mind, rather than a specific Al-Qaeda manual, right? However, he did have an Al-Qaeda manual, because an Al-Qaeda manual was found when the house was searched, as well as ricin. So let's have a look at what's in the contents of the Al-Qaeda manual. I'm not talking about how to do the terrorist stuff practically, that's in there as well, but the ideology of the Al-Qaeda manual, which he did possess. So when people are saying this is not a jihadist attack, I want people to think about this. Tommy, when I went to visit Tommy in prison just before Christmas last year, seems like an eternity ago. A lot's happened since then. When I went to visit Tommy just before Christmas last year, he told me that he'd been told by, as far as I know, prison officers and other inmates in couldn't have been must have been prison officers, that monster was a Muslim and he was going to mosque. He'd been told that. He'd been told that as a fact. Must have been by prison officers, right? When he was in Belmarsh, and he was only there for a very, very short time. So be interested to find out if anyone else knows. And I got told that by another friend of mine whose friend was a prison officer working in Belmarsh as well. So that's two independent sources told me personally that that monster was a practicing Muslim and going to mosque. Now, obviously, one of the things about in the prison system, and I found this from Steve Gallant's excellent book, that for the sake of protection, a lot of people convert to Islam for the protection of the jihadist gangs that are now operating and running the prisons, basically. But this is what the manual, basically a summary of the manual that the AI is giving me. It talks about a narrative of a global war. It talks about the victim premise. It says the core motivation is the idea that Islam is under attack globally. The manuals frame all geopolitical events, from military interventions in the Middle East to social policies in Western countries as part, and this is interesting, because where else do you hear this? You're not just hearing this from the Islamists, you're hearing this on the far left and on the far right. And here it says, from military interventions in the Middle East to social policies in Western countries as part of a coordinated Crusader Zionist war to humiliate, occupy, and destroy the Muslim world. That is the overarching narrative of the Al-Qaeda manual. Why weren't we told that when it was just said in passing, oh yeah, and he had an Al-Qaeda manual, like it was something a bit like the anarchist cookbook? There's deep, deep ideology and I guess jihadist theology in this, okay? Then it talks about redefining jihad. And it says they take the complex Islamic concept of jihad. And I'm not going to read what the AI says next about personal struggle, because we all know that that's complete baloney. The most used meaning of jihad is taking up arms to fight for, defend, or advance the caliphate. It is presented solely as a mandatory individual duty for every able-bodied Muslim to wage violent, offensive warfare against perceived enemies anywhere in the world. That is in the Al-Qaeda manual, okay? Next, dehumanizing of the target. And incidentally, all of this comes out of classical, historical, conservative Islam. Have they twisted things? Maybe. I don't know. I'm not an Islamic scholar, but this is where it comes from. So we carry on. Dehumanizing of the target, justifying violence against civilians. Says this is a crucial step in motivating an attack like the one in Southport. Guys, let this sink in. Justifying violence against civilians is a crucial step in motivating attack like the one in Southport. And remember, before that monster carried out those attacks in Southport, there'd been a very, very real threat to a genuine Taylor Swift concert, I think, in Vienna. Okay, and obviously Vienna is very, very symbolic when it comes to jihad. The manuals argue that in this total war, there are no civilians on the enemy side. Western citizens, including women and children, are framed as legitimate targets. That's what ISIS believe. That's what Al-Qaeda believe. And remember, we now have the equivalent of Al-Qaeda and ISIS running Syria. We have the Taliban, the friends of bin Laden, running Afghanistan. And there's jihadists in their thousands in the UK right now. Religious justification. They use religious verses to prove that killing unbelievers, the kuffar, is not only permissible, but divinely commanded. This creates a powerful moral and religious justification overriding the universal human prohibition against murder. So this is how they theologically justify the killing of the kuffar, no matter who they are. And again, this is coming out of classical conservative Islamic teaching. And of course, the Al-Qaeda, ISIS are taking this teaching and weaponizing it. Glorification of death. The manuals don't just justify killing, they glorify the death of the attacker. I've been reading this book, the London Bridge attack by Steve Gallant. Again, I would recommend anyone to get a copy of it. I got one for free and I got it signed because Steve's a mate of mine. But Steve Gallant talks about a jihadist in, I think it was Franklin Prison. And he comes to the prison, very small, very slight guy, but he is an absolute psychopathic, evil jihadist, right? Doesn't cause any problems, doesn't argue with anyone, keeps himself to himself, goes into the kitchen one day, boils up a chip fan full of boiling oil, walks into the whatever it is where the prisoners have the recreation, takes this pan of boiling oil, and pours it over, I was going to say an innocent prisoner, obviously not many prisoners are innocent, but over a prisoner that has done his sentence and is just about to get out of prison, pours it out. This guy hasn't done anything. He hasn't done anything against this guy. He pours it over the guy, goes and sits down next to the prison officers. That is a man who is radicalized in exactly the same way that the monster that carried out these attacks is radicalized. The glorification of death. They're not just justifying killing, they're also glorying in their own death. Shahada, as they call it, a martyr, a martyrdom operation. And of course, this is all in the manual. They believe that if they carry out these terrorist attacks and they kill the kuffar, they kill the infidel, that they will get their sensual paradise, where they get an unlimited number of virgins and have a depraved eternity, defiling all of the virgins that they've been given. Number 4, the call to individual action. Now, this is where I was absolutely amazed at Keir Starmer's reaction. Keir Starmer throws his hands in the air, says, "We're seeing a new form of terrorism." No, Keir, this is a form of terrorism that's in the manual, that the murderer, and let's call him that, let's call him the killer, the psychopathic, evil, scumbag murderer. Yes, he was a lone wolf. Absolutely, he was a lone wolf. But all this nonsense that there was no ideological rationale behind it is we are being totally gaslit. Totally gaslit. If this is the manual that he had, and again, we don't know because we've never been told what was in the manual that he had, this Al-Qaeda manual. But if what the AI is telling me is correct for this Al-Qaeda manual, and I don't think for a minute it won't be correct because it's such a sensitive issue, it's not going to spew out untruths on this subject. In fact, it's toning it down as much as it possibly can. So the call to individual action, it's leaderless resistance. Remember that phrase, leaderless resistance or individual jihad. And the whole point of leaderless resistance or individual jihad is that people in their ones and twos doing things. And I believe this is what we are going to see. Very sadly, this is what we're going to see. If there's ever pushback, you see, the reality is the Islamists are getting what they want at the minute. They're getting their terrorist glorifying marches. They're getting their blasphemy law. They're getting the recognition probably of the so-called state of Palestine by Keir Starmer. The Islamists are getting everything on their wish list. They're getting their own political parties. But if there's ever any pushback, this idea of lone wolves, leaderless resistance, individual jihad will become worse and worse and worse. That's in the manual. That's in the manual. It says the manual itself is presented as the permission. It says they explicitly tell the reader that they do not need permission from a cleric or commander. The manual itself is presented as the permission. Now think about this, guys. Think about what we're up against. And again, obviously, this is a time to reflect on what's happened, but it's also a time to say, how do we prevent this happening again? How many people are radicalized to this extent? If what we're told is true, and I think it's a massive underestimation, there's 39 to 40,000 in England that are ready to do this sort of stuff. They're already radicalized. There's not enough people in MI5 and MI5 and the security services and GCHQ to watch these people. And yet they waste loads of resources watching the so-called far right, which is probably people like me and you that are watching this video. Anyway, I'll just close this off here. This is the closing passage. It says, in summary, these manuals provide a complete ideological package. Why have we never been told about the ideological contents of an Al-Qaeda or an ISIS manual? Why have we never been told that? It goes on to say they create a powerful sense of grievance, identify and dehumanize an enemy, and provide a supposedly divine justification for mass murder and promise an ultimate personal reward. This is how they motivate individuals to carry out horrific acts like Southport, convincing them that they are not murderers, but holy warriors. Now, that has never been said. That has never, ever been said by anyone in the media. Now, Farage said, "Oh, that when the truth comes out about this, it's going to be the biggest scandal in history." Well, that truth that I've just read out there has never been discussed. It's never even been thought about or looked at. And then, of course, when there was when people started saying, "Well, this is an Islamic thing," every single person that said that was ridiculed, was gaslit, and told it wasn't. But let's look at the evidence. I've just read what's in the Al-Qaeda manual, basically, in terms of the ideological cover and justification for acts of heinous and evil terrorism, right? So I'm just going to have a look at some of the chats here. I'll hold that thought there because I want to have a look at some of the chats because I know there's a lot of people commenting here. I don't want to miss everybody out. Yorkshire Tea, thank you so much. God bless you as well. Thank you for your support. That means a lot. I do appreciate that. Jane JF, appreciate you. Thanks so much. I mean, as much as you guys say you appreciate me, I genuinely appreciate you. I mean, there's only 357 people watching this. Please like and share this because this feed, I think I've probably just shared more information on what's in the Al-Qaeda manual. And again, fact check me on it because all I've done is gone to an AI bot and said, without breaking the law, tell me what's in the Al-Qaeda manual because obviously we don't want to break any laws. But if that's correct, and please do fact check me. Go and find out. I'm sure there's got to be other Wikipedia pages or whatever that'll give you the information. But the reality is, if that's the case, we have been really gaslit, far worse than we thought. And Farage has all gone very quiet. Farage says, when the truth comes out, you'll all be shocked. Well, the truth never came out. The only truth that came out was that he had an Al-Qaeda manual and there was ricin, right? So it was obviously a terrorist attack. But the Al-Qaeda manual, it was just batted off. Like, everybody has them. Everybody has these documents lying about the house. No, I don't. I'm sure nobody in the comments does. I'm sure nobody that's watching this tonight has ever set eyes on an Al-Qaeda manual unless you're in counter-terror policing or MI5, MI6, whatever, security services, GCHQ. You will not have had your eyes on an Al-Qaeda manual because I certainly haven't. And I'm going to fact check this. I'm going to fact check what I've found out tonight to make sure it's right. And if it's wrong, I will wholeheartedly apologize. But I'm pretty damn sure it's not wrong because if I was writing an Al-Qaeda manual and I was an Islamic jihadist and I wanted to radicalize people and then get them to do terrible things, they're exactly the things that I'd be putting in that manual. Okay. I'm going to get down these comments, guys, because I'm well aware. Yeah, exactly. Exactly right. Exactly right. Yeah, well, absolutely, Lee. I mean, and if people don't see this as a problem, then wow, that's interesting. I'll have to if somebody can just check that Quran verse there, yeah, and see exactly what that verse says. That'd be very interesting. Sorry, but it's going to take a lot more than prayers to rescue honest. Oh, Niall, I agree with that. Oh, listen, I mean, you've got to understand one thing. I 100% agree that it's going to take more than prayers, but we need prayers with boots on. What we need is a political solution. We need a civic solution. We need to get everybody together that's going to oppose this. Again, reading Steve Gallant's book about the way Islamists have taken over the prisons in the last 10 years is absolutely terrifying because what they've got is an army. And that's not counting the invaders that have been coming across in the boats. And I'm going to tell you something now. There's going to come a time when it is completely impossible for us to talk about this because when they get this Islamophobia definition nailed down and a statutory mechanism for putting it into the race, it's not the Race Relations Act, but you know what I'm talking about, basically counter racism legislation, which is what they are going to do, which is the whole aim of this. and it will stop people criticizing Islam. It will stop people making videos like I'm making now. And I'm well aware that this video could cost me all my channels as well. But I think this is so serious because the ramifications of that attack are still reverberating throughout civil society. And I was talking to a friend before I came on tonight. I mean, the other thing is, if I still have channels, I'm going to put out the documentary on Ballymena in the next day or so. I've also sent it to Tommy's team that they can edit and put their touches to it. But I'm going to put out my version of the Ballymena documentary in the next 24 hours. And again, that will blow you away when you see exactly what was happening there. Okay, guys, sorry. As you get older, you need to wear your glasses more and more. Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. The church is praying and awakening. I must say, I am not a pacifist. And if it comes to defending my country or my family or my home, I will do that with every little fiber of my being. I'm a patriot. I'm not a pacifist. I'm a Christian. I'm not a pacifist. There's a massive difference. Christianity does not call us to be passive and allow evil to win. It really doesn't. We've got to resist evil. We've got to resist evil. You know, we've got to cling to that is good. Cling to what is good and resist evil. And that poison that's in that Al-Qaeda manual. How many people in this country are poisoned from that well? How many people in this country are poisoned from that well? But I want you to think about this, right? So when people were reacting and saying this is an Islamic or Islamist terrorist attack, if he did it because he was motivated by an Al-Qaeda manual, when you look at the ideology in the Al-Qaeda manual, then absolutely 100% it was a jihadist attack. And you cannot dissociate jihad from Islam. Yes, people might say, well, this is a perverted version of Islam. Maybe so, but it's still a version of Islam that a lot of people right the way throughout the Middle East, Afghanistan, Syria, Turkey, right the way into the UK, Russia, Chechnya, millions of people believe this. Millions of people are influenced by this, and millions of people support this. Whether it's the mad mullahs in Iran, whether it's Hezbollah, whether it's Hamas, whether it's the Al-Qaeda elements in Syria and in Afghanistan, Pakistan, the Kashmir, there's a lot of people buy into this, and that's what we've got to be aware of. I'm going to rattle through these comments, guys. I'm sorry about not putting too many up at the minute. I'm on a bit of a. When I've literally just realized what the significance of the Al-Qaeda manual is, and I can't believe I missed it. To be honest with you, I can't believe I missed it. Yeah, but that's right. And I know that verse. I think that's the one that says, "Crucify them and cut off the hands and the feet." That's in the Quran. You know, I think there's 100 and whatever it is, over 100 verses of the sword in the Quran. And people say, oh, there's violent stuff in the Bible. Yes, there is. You know, and as the Christians in the chat will agree with me on this, there's a massive difference between instruction, which is what you're getting in the Quran, and history, which is where the violence is in the Bible. The most violent incident in the Bible is the cross of Christ, and that cross is there to save us from our sins. Whereas in the Quran, you are given an instruction manual on how to conquer the West by the sword. That's just the reality of the situation. Okay. The tentacles of censorship are far-reaching. Do you know what, guys? I believe that we're being censored right now. I believe that when you look at this, 300 people watching this live stream. I mean, this information that I just put out here, I've never heard it anywhere before about what was actually in that manual. Why aren't the BBC talking? Because the BBC reported on it, Sky News reported on it, GB News reported on it. Oh yeah, he had an Al-Qaeda manual. Nothing to see here. I don't have one. I'm sure none of you have one, but this guy had one. And what did this lead to? What did this lead to? And again, I'm saying this with the deepest respect that I can have for the families of those little angels that were massacred by this monster. But what did this lead to? It's led to the fabric of the United Kingdom tearing apart. When we look I mean, we were doing demos, calling them the Unite the Kingdom demos. We've got another one on the 13th of September, and they're fantastic. They're absolutely fantastic. So our movement's about uniting the kingdom. What Starmer did, he decided he'd try and tear the United Kingdom apart. He called mums and dads, brothers and sisters, sons and grandsons, grandparents, the people that care about this country. He called them far right. He called them racists. He called them thugs. He called them Islamophobes. He was more worried about placating and protecting Muslim communities in the United Kingdom than going to the people of this United Kingdom, the majority of the people of this United Kingdom who are not Muslims. Let's get that right. Don't for 1 minute think we're an Islamic state. We are not. The majority of people in this country are not Muslims. And he accused everybody that had taken to the streets and got angry or said some hurty words on social media and got angry, accused every single one of them of being right-wing extremists and racist. And look at the sentences they got. Look at what Lucy Connolly got. 31 months in prison. That woman will be broken when she comes out of prison. They banged Tommy up. They couldn't wait to get Tommy. They were trying to get him on some sort of incitement charge, but there was nothing there because he didn't do it. But the media said he did. What's the chance of Tommy ever getting any fair treatment in this country when you look at what the media did after the riots? In fact, Tommy and me and Paul Thorpe and people in the Football Lads, I'm not going to name them because the Football Lads don't like being named on live streams, but loads of us were cut in the background and on live streams telling people not to get involved in violence. I didn't see anyone actually inciting violence on mainstream media channels. Maybe there was people doing it on Telegram or whatever in little groups or WhatsApp groups. I don't know, but I didn't see anybody inciting violence on their channels. Because if you had, you'd have been in jail for 10 years, and it's not the right thing to do because it's not the way to win this. Because we don't want the civil war. However, what we have to do as a people is get a lot more robust. We need to learn how to defend ourselves. I'm not talking about doing anything offensive. I'm not talking about attacking people. I'm talking about have a plan to defend your home. Have a plan to defend yourself, your wife, your children, your grandchildren. If you're ever out for a meal somewhere, have a plan. If there's somebody comes through the door shouting Allahu Akbar and waving a machete or with knives strapped to his wrists and something that looks like a suicide vest around his neck, have a plan. That's not an unreasonable thing to do. Look at that nutcase on that EasyJet plane from Luton to Glasgow. Surprise, surprise, boarded at Luton. Look at that nutcase on that plane. I'm glad that man seemed to know what he's doing. I don't know whether he'd done grappling or whatever, but he knew how to take that guy down. He took him down. I would advise everybody to start doing some sort of grappling, whether it's Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, wrestling, judo, or whatever, so that you can take people down if they start acting up and start threatening to blow themselves and everybody else to bits while you're just flying on a domestic flight in the UK. Think about that, guys. And it hardly makes the news. It hardly makes the news. But then we look at what happened. We look at this thing with whether it was Lowell's or not, I don't know, but I'm near sure it was, saying that there'd been an acid attack on a Muslim woman in Middlesbrough, right? That led to a mob of so-called Muslim Defence League wandering around Middlesbrough, beating random white kids up. We've all seen the footage. There's other footage. I think it's somewhere in the northwest, possibly Blackburn or somewhere like that. Two guys going home from work. They get chased down by a Pakistani mob, chased into a gully, and they jump in the gully, and they either the little plastic fencing falls on top of them, or they grab it and hide under it. I can't remember because it's that long since I've seen the footage. Or else these guys were trying to jump on their heads. They were trying to kill them, right? The guy out in the pub on his own, sitting having a pint, a mob turn up and beat the you-know-what out of him, right? That was all happening. And for our country to descend into a state of massive civil unrest and possibly civil war, all it would have taken is a couple of people from each side to be killed, as well as what this monster had done. And again, of course, the people who covered this up, what this monster was, will justify it by saying, oh, well, we knew if we let on that he'd been reading an Al-Qaeda manual, everybody would have realized he was a jihadist. If you read an Al-Qaeda manual, it inspires you. Well, I think their magazine used to be called Inspire, didn't it? And it inspires you to go out and carry out a jihadist attack, that makes you a jihadist, whether you go to mosque or not. Okay? And nobody's asking these questions. Nobody's talking about these questions. Nobody's talking about these questions. So we were lied to. We were lied to about the alleged acid attack. We were lied to, and this is the other thing. Keir Starmer incited more violence than Tommy Robinson ever did, because Keir Starmer told the Muslim populations of the United Kingdom that they were under attack from the far right and he was going to protect them. And they went, we don't really trust you to protect us. So they got themselves tooled up and took to the streets. And to be honest with you, that's understandable. And it's the same what, English communities, Indian communities would do exactly the same if they thought they were going to be under attack from the Muslim Defence League. So the lies of Keir Starmer led to the riots, but also led to the counter demonstrations and the events that could have turned into an absolute bloodbath. So the government has a massive responsibility. Starmer should have resigned 6 months ago. People are talking about Starmer resigning. We're not going to get rid of these people anytime soon. Starmer will probably go and he'll be replaced by Red Rayner with her Islamophobia bill. We're in for such a rough time, and that's why we have got to get political. We've got to get serious. We've got to get spiritually radical. We've got to pray about this stuff. We've got to take this stuff to the Lord, and we've also absolutely got to fight back. And I'm not talking about physically. I'm talking about politically. There needs to be a political answer. It's not reform. It is not. It just isn't, because they're so compromised. And I'm sorry, guys, and I know a lot of you are going to hate me for saying this, and it's not an attack on Nick himself, but it's not UKIP, because they don't have the strength and depth that's needed. They don't have the intellectual muscle that's needed to save this country. Nick Tenkoni is not going to be Prime Minister in 2029, but Ben Habib could be. Ben Habib could be. And I know Ben, I know what he believes, and he believes that he's not a born-again Christian, but he believes exactly what I believe about what needs to be done and how the country needs to be fixed. He's very intelligent, he's very articulate, but he's also very passionate and very dedicated to the cause. And he loves the UK as much as anyone I know, including Northern Ireland. So that's why I keep talking about Advance and Nick and Ben. So they lied about the far right. They lied about terrorism. They said it wasn't a terrorist attack, and then later on they said, "Oh well, actually it was a terrorist attack, but it's a lone wolf attack, and we've never really had them before. We've had loads of lone wolf attacks. The guy that killed PC Keith Palmer was Keith Palmer, wasn't it? PC Keith Palmer in the gates of Downing Street after running loads of people over on Westminster Bridge. He was a lone wolf. He did it on his own. The guy that killed the MP Amos was a lone wolf, right? And of course, this monster was a lone wolf. The Afghan jihadi that killed an innocent pensioner was a lone wolf terrorist in Hartlepool. The guy that got shot by the police in London a few years ago, I was actually over there at a demo. I was on the train to Heathrow when it happened. He was a lone wolf. So let's just get with the program. Let's just get with the program. We've been lied to. We've been gaslit. And worst of all, we've been lied to about that monster's motivation. We've been told by different sources he was a Muslim. We know he was reading an Al-Qaeda manual. We know that he produced ricin, and we know he was obsessed with ISIS. Well, I think that ticks all the boxes for me. I don't know what you think. Maybe he just didn't have a Quran, and that's why they didn't say he was a Muslim. So the question is, and this is where I do want people to answer in the questions, what do we do? What do we do when our countries, instead of going after the cause, instead of saying, oh, look, the canary's just died in the mine, instead of looking at what's happening to the canary, what they're doing is they're saying there's nothing to see here. Don't worry about all the gas in the mine. Just keep sparking up your cigarettes down in the mine. If it all explodes, it'll all be okay. We've got to realize what's going on here, and we've got to realize the threat we're in. And on the right, we've got to be clever. On the right, we have to be clever. We have to be getting our friends and neighbors to join us in our, and what we're doing is a noble cause. We're not trying to kill anyone or destroy anybody's lives or hate people. That's not what we're motivated by. We are motivated by, well, I'm motivated by love for God, love for family, and love of my country. That's what motivates me. That's why I do this, for my kids, my grandkids. That's why I'm doing this, because listen, I'm 57, right? I've got what? Who knows how long you've got when you get to 57. There's people my age dropping down like flies all over the place, and that's, well, we all know why that is, don't we? Because of what they put into us during that the pandemic. But the reality is that we have to fight this fight. If we fight this fight, our kids and our grandkids don't have to. That's the truth of the matter. But we need to get them involved in terms of voting and getting politically active and finding a political solution that's viable. Because with all the best will in the world, right, the Middle England, right, and we have to get Middle England on board, and we have to get Middle England voting for us. Middle England are not going to vote for a party whose leader walks through a city shouting, "Whose streets are streets?" It's not going to happen. And I'm sorry, guys, as much as I have respect for UKIP and the people in UKIP, a lot of my friends are in UKIP, as much as I have respect for them, they're not the answer. Advance and Restore together, and Nick and UKIP coming on board, and everybody getting together before the next general election, getting rid of Farage and Mohammed Zia Yusuf, getting rid of Tice, let him go and live in Dubai with that blonde girl, I can't remember her name, Isabel someone or other, and let them all go to Dubai and live in Dubai and retire. But just leave serious people to do the politics. Reform are not a serious party. If UKIP, the SDP, whatever smaller parties are out there that aren't far-right goose-stepping Nazis, whatever smaller parties are out there, got behind Advance, joined Advance, got on the college of Advance, stood as candidates for Advance, it would make things work if everybody gets together. And we need a leader that's got credibility and has got a recognized brand and is known. Now, yes, there's nobody's going to do better than Farage, right, in terms of having a brand. But that's all he's got. There's no substance to him. It's like an ex-employer of mine used to say about a competitor. He's all fur coat and no knickers. Anyway, great work, Richard. This needs to be widely known. Yeah, thanks for that. What about Bob? It does need to be widely known. It does need to be widely known that his motivation is almost without doubt the Al-Qaeda manual and ISIS propaganda. Why has that been hidden? And I bet if you went and Google that, you're going to have to do a lot of digging to find that. You're going to have to do a lot of digging to find that. Oh, let's have a look at some of these comments. Yeah, that's true as well. That's true as well. Absolutely. I mean, that's another thing. I mean, you see, this is the problem, right? So what our education system's done, what these disgusting people, these cultural Marxists, who most of them are white, which is the crazy thing about it, they've radicalized a generation of students into thinking that white man bad. It's, to me, if you think somebody's bad because of their skin color, you're a racist dog, whether you're a white supremacist or a black supremacist. I don't want anything to do with you. And I mean, that's, there's people kind of skirting around our movement who are kind of ethno-nats white supremacists. There's people skirting around the black community who are black supremacists. There's a name for them. I can't even remember what it was, but there's that guy that used to do stuff with Tommy. He's kind of, as far as I know, a black supremacist. So there's a lot of that, and it's a big problem. The guy that used to go to Speaker's Corner, I can't remember his name. And no, it's not Wendell. Wendell's sound. Wendell's one of us. Wendell's 100% on board before anyone thinks that. Sarah, someone or other. Anyway, getting off the point. Hatred of white people thrown into the mix, along with incel beliefs and Al-Qaeda and ISIS teaching and theology. That's a pretty toxic mix. And where did he learn that? He learned that right here in the United Kingdom. Yes, he got it online, but he's not learning in a vacuum. That's where he got that stuff from. And yes, he was a terrorist. It's as simple as that. He was a terrorist, and you can't call him anything else. And again, we were gaslit. And this is the strange thing about these platforms, that you can't even use these words on these platforms, which I find completely bizarre. But we're still being lied to about this. A year on, we're still being lied to. A year on, there's still people rotting in prison. And after the demonstrations in Ballymena, which again, it wasn't Islam, it was a rogue Roma gypsy mafia that set up in Ballymena, caused absolute havoc, and then started sexually assaulting children. That's what happened in Ballymena. If you look at what happened in Dublin a few years ago, when there was riots in Dublin, some psychopathic man, we've never been given a reason why this man did it. Some psychopathic man suddenly decided he'd do exactly what Axel Rudabakana did. Now, I think I'm right in saying one of the children was extreme. I don't think any of the children died. One was extremely seriously injured. But guess what? Dublin burned that night. Okay? Now, these are not normal events. This shouldn't happen in a normal society. You look at Ballymena, it was an assault on children. You look at Epping, it was an assault on children. You look at Dublin, it was an attempted murder of children. You look at Southport, it was actual murder of children. And from all I used to read a lot about this stuff. Read a lot about this stuff. And years ago, we're probably talking about the time of the Ariana Grande massacre. People in security circles, I'm just a bit of a nerd. I have a fascination in what security people think about what the threats are to the country. We should probably all have that sort of fascination. But anyway, people in security circles were saying their great fear was that jihadists were going to go into a school and do what they did in the Beslan massacre in Russia. And if you don't know what that is, go and Google it. Go and Google the Beslan massacre. In fact, it's one of the things that woke Tommy up to what was happening within the ranks of the jihadists. Okay? And people were terrified that was going to happen. And why do you think they still have these drills where all the kids have to hide and lock themselves in a room? It's not because you're going to have some weirdo incels walking into the school like they do in America. No, they're worried about jihad. It's as plain and simple as that. So a year on, we're in a worse position. A year on, instead of the government saying, we want to hear what's up, we want to hear why you were upset about what happened in Southport. We can't really understand why you're so upset and why you're looking at mosques and saying, is there something off there? I think it's quite understandable. People wanted answers and they didn't get answers. They just got gaslit. And then they got put in prison. Lucy Connolly should never have gone to prison. What she said, she should have pleaded. If she'd have pleaded not guilty, she would not be in prison now. And that's the other thing. If you ever put something on Facebook and you get arrested for it, no comment, not guilty. That's it. Don't engage with the lawyer that's going to tell you to take a plea to get a lighter sentence. If you get arrested for putting hurty words on a social media platform, disengage. No comment, not guilty. That's it. And then get yourself a decent lawyer and make sure you didn't put something on that was genuinely racially motivated or inciting violence, because then you will go to prison. Could an Islamophobia law be repealed? Yes. Angela, that's absolutely what could happen. Could an Islamophobia law be repealed by a different government? Ex-servicemen and women for civil defense force ASAP. I've been saying that for years. And probably the only part of the country, the only part of the UK that would have any chance of putting up some resistance against this sort of attack, like what happened on the 7th of October, wasn't it? September, 7th of October, 2023, would be Northern Ireland, because of the muscle memory from people that were in the security forces, people that were involved in other groups and other civic groups in Northern Ireland that know how to stand up and know how to take to the streets. But again, that takes the people that are running those groups to understand the threat and that this could actually happen here. We could be in this. I think it's far more likely to happen that something catastrophic happens in terms of an attack in England, in a northern town, or they go and take over a village or something like that. I think that's far more likely than anything happening in Northern Ireland. But what could happen in Northern Ireland are lone wolf, leaderless resistance attacks. So That's what we're up against. Nothing has changed. Nothing's been done. The radicalization has got worse and worse and worse as a result of the Israel wars, because the jihadists aren't happy that they're getting beaten and that people aren't compromising with them in the Middle East anymore. So that's why they're taking to the streets over here. That's why they're bullying these pathetic, limp-wristed governments like Starmer's and Macron's, and what was that weirdo that's just got booted out in Canada? Well, his replacement's not much better, Justin Trudeau. These governments that we've got are vile, globalist, communist, appeasing, Islamist appeasing cowards and traitors. It's as simple as that. And we need a political solution. So this is you know what, I'm gonna close off here because I'm gonna get myself stressed. The reality is we have to try the political solution. If we don't get it right in 2029, there is no political solution. If we get a bad government again in 2029, there is no political solution. So this is what I would advise everybody to do, right? Sign the pledge if you haven't done so already. Sorry. Register to vote. Okay. Get on the electoral register so that if there's an election anytime soon, you can actually vote in it. Get your extended family members to vote, and then explain to them why they should be voting for Advance UK. Join Advance UK. I mean, this is a lot of action to do, but I think all of these things are necessary. And I put my money where my mouth is. I can tick the box on all of these. And again, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna push the UK freedom movement again, because that is something that I think we're talking about, a civil defence force. I think, and again, it would have to be defence, and it would have to be legal, it would have to be legitimate. But I think what we need to do is start building resilience right the way throughout the UK by building very small groups of sensible people that can actually organise, start, I know it sounds crazy, the other thing is start going to church. Find a good evangelical church. Don't go to one of these liberal ones with a pink-haired lesbian vicar. Go to a proper Christian church and start worshipping God and start praying about this. And then, get yourselves physically fit. That's never going to do you any harm, being physically fit, and have a plan if anybody invades your house. Have a plan if you're out in the pub and somebody comes in and starts shouting Allahu Akbar. Have a plan if somebody does it on a plane. Have a plan. Think, what would I do if this happens? What do I do next? Have those sort of things going through your head. Yes, Sam Solomon wrote a book called Al-Hijra, which is about that very subject, about basically using immigration as a weapon of invasion. That's exactly what's happening. And our traitor governments are facilitating the Islamist takeover of the United Kingdom. That's what they're doing. They're facilitating it. And by stopping us talking about Islamism and stopping us talking about Islam, they are stopping us being able to have a debate about whether it's good or bad. Because guess what? Not every idea is a good idea. People say all religions are the same. That's like saying all politics are the same. Because there's a big difference between, let's say, the Liberal Democrats, the Conservative Party, Reform, and the National Socialist Party, right? There's a bit of a difference there between those parties. There's a bit of a difference between the Communists and the Conservatives. But no, according to the secularists, all religions the same. It's all bunkum. None of it matters. Well, actually, it does matter in the same way your atheism matters as well. What you believe really, really does matter, and it really has an effect on the whole country that you live in. Oh, guys, I'm on a rant tonight. I'm really on a rant. Oh, Boltonley Sands. That's where my granny and granddad lived. That's amazing. That is amazing. Their name. What was the street they lived in? Oh, Boltonley Sands. What street did they live in? It was near a little cafe called the Singing Kettle, right? Because I used to go there for not a cup of tea, because I wasn't allowed to drink tea when I was a little kid. It was it was near the Singing Kettle. I'd have gone for a glass of milk and a bun, But Boltonley Sands, beautiful place, lovely people. There was a railway line there. Yeah, that's amazing. Yes, Brett is great. Go to Brett's church, and also there's a Free Methodist church, I think, in Garstang up there as well, which used to be pastored by a Romanian guy who was great. Okay, The Quran, book of evil. Yep, I would agree with that. Do you know what? I've gone on such a rant. I can't remember what the question was there at Yorkshire Tea, but there we go. Kim it's saying there's no migrants in there. Yeah, well, there you go. Go to places where, go to hotels that aren't, I mean, well, you can't get into a hotel that's putting migrants up. That's a silly thing to say, isn't it? Yes, exactly right. Exactly right. Christians are not running around the entire West unaliving people in the name of Jesus. I like that. Unaliving people. Oh, man. Oh, shadow banning is real and it's happening. You better believe it's happening. I've noticed my numbers have dropped right the way across the board with these platforms, but we've got to keep going. Let me get UK Freedom Movement up because I want everyone to sign up to this. Where are we? See if this comes up. There we go. It's not even coming up on flipping Google, man. Oh, this just shows you how bad things have got. Okay. Right, let's have a look. Let's just post this in the chat. Okay. There we go, guys. Yeah, so go on to ukfreedom.org.uk and just sign up. Just give me your email address. I mean, to be honest with you, I haven't checked this site for a long time. So if we build up the email addresses, then I'll start emailing people from that site. We're going to be sending an email out from the pledge about the Islamophobia thing soon. Hope for the best, prepare for the worst, trust in God and keep your powder dry. That was Ian Paisley used to quote Oliver Cromwell fairly regular on that one. It could be another late one, couldn't it? Metal detectors have been installed at Westminster Abbey. I mean, come on, come on. What's going on with that? According to the regime, they're distraught because the protesters knocked their bins over and for no other reason. Oh, my goodness. It's the same for me. I thought I'd done it months ago, but I never received an email. Richard said to sign again, and finally it went through. I got an email. Yeah, Sheila, keep your eyes open because we are going to send an email out from the pledge in the next few days. Let me put the pledge banner up here. So obviously you all know to sign up to Counter Media, to like and subscribe. Having said that, they may well vaporize my channel anytime soon, which wouldn't surprise me, but there you go. We'll keep going as long as we can. Let's hope they don't. We need to ring the church bells and stop. Yeah, do you know what? Oh man, there was something about the ringing of church bells I heard the other day. It was really cool. It came from, oh yes, okay. Do you know what? Here's the thing. This is what it was, right? So Raymond Ibrahim, if you go onto his channel on YouTube, he's brilliant. He's a scholar of Islam, but he's not a Muslim. He's a Coptic Christian. Raymond Ibrahim, and basically what he said was that the ringing of church bell happened. I think it was after the Christians defeated the Muslims in Belgrade, just after the fall of Constantinople. So this is kind of the Turks come in and they besiege Belgrade, and a peasant army rises up in Europe, marches to Belgrade and defends Belgrade from the Turks and beats them, which it shouldn't have beat them because they were massively outnumbered. The peasants didn't have any weapons really. And from that day onwards, I think it said church bells were rung at midday everywhere, right the way throughout Europe. And of course, that used to happen in England. And it doesn't happen anymore. I wonder why, because it was celebrating the defeat of a jihadist army that was trying to conquer Europe. And now nobody rings the church bells, or I haven't heard them ringing for a long time. So there you go, a little bit of trivia. Again, fact check me on all these things. See if I say something and you think it's a bit off, fact check me, because if I've got anything slightly wrong, I want to know. Do you know what I mean? Because none of us, listen, I'm not infallible. The Pope's not infallible either. There's only one person that's infallible, and that's the Lord God Almighty. Okay. They told Lucy Connolly she wouldn't get bail if she pleaded. She wouldn't get bail if she pleaded not guilty. She was told she may be in prison for up to a year before the court case. Yeah, exactly. Absolutely right, ex-submariner. That's exactly what happened, and that's why if you ever get nicked, on one of these trumped up hate charges because you've put something on social media or done a video like this, no comments, not guilty, get a good brief. The way things are in the prisons, they're going to have to let you out anyway. Yep, it isn't. It is indeed, Jason. It's another late one. It's another late one. Yeah, I saw that on Dan Wotton, Katy Perry and Trudeau. Oh my word. Is that are we on about Katy Perry here? Yeah. Okay, yeah, let me know about that. Yes, let me know about that. Yeah, I'll talk to you about that. So let me know about that. People who's saying they can't get on. There was a problem with O2. We think O2 blocked the pledge for political reasons, but we could never prove it. But we think that happened. But look, and the other thing is, if you can't get on the pledge, dive onto UK Freedom Movement, sign that, because I'm going to be emailing people as well. So. Yeah, UKFM also has a Facebook page, as does the pledge. So these are projects that have been going on for a long time. I mean, the ideology behind the pledge, I mean, man, that's been worked on for years and years and years. I was writing mission statements for the veterans, some of the football lads groups, again, just to make sure that there was no extremism, and it was always based on freedom, equality, and democracy. That was always the mantras, and it was always based on including Northern Ireland as part of the United Kingdom. So it was the territorial integrity of the United Kingdom was also really important in there. So we've done this for a long time. UK Freedom Movement, 2018, we did our first demo. And again, that was something that came when I realized that sadly the Veterans Against Terrorism there were people in it that didn't fully understand what we were fighting against. And I thought, well, I need to do something that's going to be a little bit more in line with what I believe. Anyway, okay. As a Catholic, I never thought I'd be evoking the spirits of Ian Paisley and Oliver Cromwell. Divinity makes strange bedfellows. Niall, that is really funny. That is, and it's so true. Look, and this is what I would love to. And Niall, you've got, that's a very Irish sounding name. So I don't know whether you're Irish ancestry, live in England, or whether you live in Ireland or Northern Ireland. But I don't care whether you're a Catholic, an Orthodox, a Presbyterian, as long as you trust in the Lord Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior, and you know that we've got a battle on our hands and you're willing to fight and roll up your sleeves. I must admit, I'm not into the praying to Mary stuff and some of the other stuff, but that's because I live in Protestant Ulster, I suppose, isn't it? Anyway, okay. And again, I hope I don't offend anyone when I'm making jokes about religion. I'm not trying to offend people. I think we've got to be lighthearted. If you look at, Jesus, when he was, telling his parables, he was telling jokes, talking about people swallowing camels and having, logs in their eyes and, straining out a gnat and swallowing a camel, all that sort of stuff. Jesus told jokes, I think he did anyway. Right. Oh, have we got to the end of the chat? Have I finally caught up? No, probably not. Okay. Never been to Morecambe. Been to Bridlington, Scarborough. Listen, Scarborough, love Scarborough, absolutely love Scarborough. There used to be scooter runs at Scarborough and biker things, and used to go there as a kid and watch all the scooter boys and the bikers scrapping with each other. Absolutely fantastic. And Whitby as well. Well, I was only in Bridlington once, but Whitley, Bridlington, Scarborough, loved those places as a kid. Blackpool, Morecambe, Barrow and Furness. Man, go to bed now. Okay, Linda. Do you know what? It's 11:05. I am going to call this one a day. Okay. I, listen, what I want to make sure is we don't get into any sectarianism on this channel. We've got enough battles on our hands. We're fighting against the Islamists, okay? So all the Christians have really got to stick together. Yeah, get a VPN. Get a VPN, 100%. I've used VPNs for years. Okay. The Caliphate of West Yorkshire. Oh dear, 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 dear. It's true though, isn't it? I mean, what do they call that place? Dewsbury. Dewsbury is, man. I mean, you might as well be in Karachi. Somebody said we've got to make sure we don't become a colony of Pakistan, and that's very, very true, isn't it? Very, very true. Okay, guys, I'm going to dive off here. I hope that was helpful. That stuff that I found out about what was in the Al-Qaeda manual. Do me a favor, guys. Fact check me on it because I got that from AI. I deliberately tried to do a very moderate prompt that wasn't going to try and weigh it so that the AI said something to please me, which sometimes it is, it does. But that stuff I got there, I'm gonna go and check the sources on it when I get off this live stream. But it shows you we have been lied to, we've been gaslit, people have been sent to prison for nothing. Peter Lynch died in prison. What's happened is horrendous. And again, when we see what's happened with Tommy in the last 24 hours, getting attacked by someone retaliating, and now, according to the Sun, he's the most wanted man in the world, which is complete nonsense, But right, guys, I'm going to check a few more of these comments, and then I am going to go. You sound like Nick Tenconi. There's Niall again. Sterling, all Christians, pagans, and atheists. Yeah, listen, we all need to stick together. We all need to stick together on this. Never plead guilty. Guys, I am going to go. But listen, it's been good. There's 400 odd people on here. I'd like to have seen more, but, there's probably a lot of other live streams been going on, and you can only watch so much YouTube, can't you? Guys, I'll see you all soon. We'll do it all again very, very soon. I'll see if I can get one in tomorrow, guys. Yeah, I'll see if I can get a live stream in tomorrow. And again, super chats. I'm just going to go through these. Thanks everyone that did a super chat. Thanks for that, Yorkshire Tea. God bless. Thank you, Jane. Church is praying and waiting. Thanks again, Yorkshire Tea. What about Bob? Great work, Richard. This needs to be widely known. Yep. And again, like I say, just make sure it's right. I've pulled the stuff off the web, but it doesn't mean it's completely factual. I didn't have time to fact check it, to be honest with you. Unite the right. There needs to be a slogan going forward. Sign up for Restore Advance. Yes. Pinocchio Pete, agree 100% and contribute to all the citizen journalists. Everybody needs to support each other. And we need to push this thing forward. And I mean that when I say I want all those other parties, those smaller parties, to come and join Advance and Restore, and let's do it all together, And we'll see. I mean, I think it's actually healthy having all these things doing their own thing, as long as they come together in the end, as long as they come together in the end. But people need to join Advance, because what I just got a little bit of feedback there because I was I clicked on a YouTube channel that was playing me in the background without realizing. But guys, listen, I'm going to go sign the pledge, join Advance, join Restore. What else was it? Go to church, get on the electoral register, sign up to UK Freedom Movement, and contribute to all the citizen journalists. Good plan. Pinocchio Pete, thanks so much. Guys, see you all next time. God bless.